If I'm being honest, I never thought my wedding would become the spark that blew my entire family dynamic to pieces. Not because it was extravagant or dramatic or even controversial. Quite the opposite. It was supposed to be simple, quiet, a humble affair, as my parents so graciously insisted. No venue, no photographer, no big guest list. Just a homemade arch in my parents' backyard and maybe a Costco sheet cake if we were feeling fancy. I agreed, reluctantly, because I've always been the one to keep the peace. The one who nods along. The one who doesn't ask for much. But when I found out what they did for my sister, let's just say something inside me snapped. And for the first time in my life, I stopped being the easy child. My name's Tyler, I'm 29, and I was the firstborn who got the "we're doing our best" version of parenting. You know the type. The one who gets the off-brand shoes while your younger sibling has Nike in 4 different colors by the time they're 10. The one who gets praised for being so mature, when really, it just meant handling everything alone. That's not to say my childhood was terrible. My parents weren't monsters or anything. But there was always this subtle current of favoritism running beneath everything. And that current had a name, Amber. Amber is my little sister, younger by 3 years, and for as long as I can remember, she's been the sun my parents orbit around. Every school play, every birthday party, every scraped knee, all of it was a production for Amber. She was always this sensitive one, the one who needed more attention, the one whose meltdowns were catered to while I was told to be strong and understand that she doesn't mean it. And I did. For years. I played the role they handed me, smiled through it, got good grades, worked part-time jobs to buy my own car, put myself through college. And when I got engaged to my partner, Rachel, after 5 years together, I thought maybe, just maybe, it would be the one time they'd celebrate me. Spoiler, they didn't. When Rachel and I got engaged, it wasn't a grand gesture. We were on a weekend hike, just the two of us, when I asked her with a ring I'd been saving up for over a year. She cried. I cried. It was perfect. When we told my parents, their first reaction wasn't congratulations. It was concern. Weddings are expensive, my mom said, her voice already loaded with passive-aggressive worry. You're not thinking of doing something big, are you? My dad nodded solemnly. Money's tight, Ty. Maybe think about something low-key. Backyard. Family only. Keep it humble, you know. Rachel and I exchanged glances. We'd already been researching affordable venues and photographers, trying to keep things reasonable while still having a day that felt special. But I swallowed my disappointment and nodded. Yeah, I said. We can figure something out. I didn't want to put pressure on them. I knew they weren't rolling in cash. But I also assumed, foolishly, as it turns out, that they'd offer what they could, maybe a little support here and there. They didn't. In the following weeks, every time I brought up a small detail of the wedding, they had a reason to shoot it down. Flowers? We can get some from Costco. Music? Just use a speaker and a playlist, no need for a DJ. Seating? People can stand. It's not like it'll be long. Every conversation was a negotiation where we were the unreasonable ones for wanting anything more than a potluck under their string lights. And the tone, that was the worst part. The implication that we were being selfish, that asking for anything beyond paper plates and backyard folding chairs was a burden. At first, Rachel tried to be understanding. She didn't grow up around this kind of guilt-tripping, and I could see it was confusing for her. She'd offer compromises, suggest DIY options, try to make it fun. But every attempt was met with the same dismissive tone. You're not one of those brides who needs everything perfect, right? My mom would say, half laughing but with that unmistakable edge. Rachel smiled politely, but I could see her enthusiasm draining a little more each time. The final straw in that early stage came when I asked my mom about borrowing the backyard, just to confirm. She blinked like it was a ridiculous question. Of course. That's the whole idea, right? We're saving you the cost of a venue. Then, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, she added, but we won't be paying for any cleanup or catering. You'll have to handle all that. We're just offering the space. And that was that. My own wedding, the one day people say is supposed to be about you, was starting to feel like a hand-me-down. I told myself it was okay, that we'd make it ours. That love was what mattered. But something kept tugging at me. A weird gut feeling I couldn't quite shake. A sense that something wasn't being said. That feeling didn't go away, especially when Amber got engaged. It happened about 3 months after we'd announced ours. Amber's boyfriend, Devin, a nice enough guy, if a little spineless, proposed on a yacht during a weekend trip to the coast. There were Instagram photos, champagne toasts, and an entire highlight reel before they'd even gotten off the boat. My mom reposted every picture. My dad commented on all of them with heart emojis. Rachel and I watched it all from our apartment, sitting on our secondhand couch, sipping wine from mismatched glasses. Rachel was quiet. I was quieter. When we called to congratulate Amber, her voice was dripping with excitement. "We're thinking of doing something really magical," she said. "Like a vineyard or something rustic but elegant, you know?" I nodded, trying to sound happy for her. She didn't ask about our plans. She didn't even ask how we were doing. The next time I saw my parents, they were buzzing. "Amber's venue is so beautiful," my mom gushed. "And they found this photographer with the most amazing portfolio. Expensive, but totally worth it." I blinked. "Wait, you've seen the venue?" "Oh, we went with them last week," she said. "They needed help with the deposit. But it's going to be stunning. A real fairy tale. Help with the deposit." I didn't say anything. I just nodded. Let it sit. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But the next week, Rachel's mom, who lives 3 states away, called to ask if we needed help with anything. She said she felt bad she couldn't do more. That's when Rachel, bless her, broke down crying. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Something wasn't adding up. So I started digging. Quietly. Casually. A few texts. A few conversations. And what I found made my stomach turn. My parents weren't just helping with Amber's deposit. They were paying for almost everything. The venue. The catering. The photographer. The live band. The custom invitations. And to top it all off, they'd just gifted Amber and Devin a 2-week honeymoon package to Italy. First-class flights. Boutique hotels. Private tours. $25,000. That was the total. I stared at the number on the email I wasn't supposed to see. Amber had accidentally CC'd me on a chain with her travel agent. My hands were shaking. They told me they couldn't afford a photographer, a chair rental, a simple venue. They guilted us into hosting our wedding in their backyard with a Bluetooth speaker and a folding table of deli meats. And now they were sponsoring Amber's Italian fantasy like it was the royal wedding? I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call them up in a fury. I just sat there in the dark, feeling something cold and sharp settle inside me. I was done playing the good son. But instead of confronting them, I smiled. I nodded. I let them think the backyard wedding was still happening. I even asked for help picking out a modest dress shirt for the ceremony. And while they were busy planning Amber's Cinderella ball, I was planning something else. Something they never saw coming. But before I get to that, you need to know just how far they were willing to go to humiliate me. Because it got worse. Much worse. I wish I could say I confronted them right then and there. That I called them out, demanded answers, and reclaimed my dignity in a blaze of righteous fury. But I didn't. I played along. That's how I was raised. Not to rock the boat. Keep your head down. Keep the peace. Smile through it. And I did. For weeks. I smiled at texts about tablecloth colors for the intimate backyard setup. Nodded along while my mom sent me photos of fairy lights she'd found on clearance. Listened to my dad grumble about the cost of mulch for their garden. The same garden we were supposedly getting married in. Like we were just another errand on their landscaping to-do list. Meanwhile, Amber's wedding posts were flooding every social media feed. Engraved invitations with gold foil. Bridesmaid proposal boxes with luxury skincare. A dress shopping trip that involved a champagne brunch and a rented limo. My parents were in every photo. Beaming. Holding dress bags. Toasting with flutes of bubbly like they were living in a Hallmark movie. And all the while, I kept pretending. Pretending I didn't know. Pretending I was grateful. Pretending I wasn't quietly unraveling inside. Rachel noticed. Of course she did. One night, after yet another passive-aggressive call from my mom about keeping expectations low, she closed her laptop mid-search for affordable wedding alternatives and said, "Tyler, why are we doing this?" I didn't have an answer. Not a good one, anyway. But I couldn't let go. Not yet. Not until I saw just how deep the rabbit hole went. That moment came during Amber's bridal shower. Rachel and I weren't initially invited. My mom said it was just for her close friends, and Amber wanted to keep it really intimate. I told Rachel not to take it personally. I even said it was probably better this way. Fewer awkward moments, less tension. She nodded, but I could tell it stung. Rachel isn't dramatic. She's quiet, thoughtful, kind. She doesn't ask for much. But being left out like that, it hurt. I saw it in the way she didn't look up when she passed Amber's latest Instagram post. A boomerang of matching silk robes and custom cocktails with a dozen smiling women, my mom front and center, holding up a sign that said Mother of the Bride. And then, as if the universe wanted to rub it in, the next day, Amber texted me. Not to apologize. Not to include us. Just to brag. Shower was amazing, she wrote. Mom and Dad went all out. You wouldn't believe the cake. Had this edible gold stuff on it. Legit. I stared at the message for a full minute before putting the phone down. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not without saying something I'd regret. And anyway, I didn't have to. Because 3 days later, Rachel got a call from her sister, Jenna, who, it turns out, had been at the same venue a day after the shower for a friend's baby sprinkle. Did you know your future in-laws booked out the entire rooftop space for Amber's shower? She asked. It was insane. I saw photos. Looked more like a mini wedding. There was a DJ. I felt something crack in my chest. They'd told me there wasn't enough money for music. That a Bluetooth speaker would do the trick. That chairs were unnecessary. People can stand, right? And here they were, dropping thousands on a bridal shower. That was when I started documenting everything. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. I just knew I needed a record. I started saving texts, screenshots, email confirmations, budget spreadsheets, even voice memos when my parents rambled on about Amber's wedding plans, not realizing they were casually admitting to spending the kind of money on her that they swore they didn't have for me. It was petty, I know, but it also felt like the first time I had proof, real proof, that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined the favoritism, that I wasn't just being dramatic, as my mom always claimed whenever I brought up the double standard. Then came the family dinner. My parents invited us over, supposedly to talk through final details for our backyard wedding. Rachel was hesitant. Are we seriously going to sit there and pretend this is okay? She asked. I said yes, because I needed to see it through, because I wasn't done gathering evidence, because part of me, deep down, still wanted to believe there might be some explanation, some moment of accountability, maybe even an apology. Instead, I got insulted. The dinner started awkwardly, as they always do now. Small talk, compliments on the food, my mom talking too much, my dad sipping wine like he couldn't wait for it to be over. Eventually, the conversation turned to the wedding. My wedding, or what was left of it. So, my mom began, folding her napkin neatly. Have you decided what kind of plasticware you want? We found some gold-rimmed plates at Dollar Tree. They're actually really elegant. Rachel blinked. Plasticware. Well, we assumed you wouldn't want to rent china or anything. It's just a backyard ceremony. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. You said you'd help with rentals. My mom tilted her head. We said we'd host. That's already a big expense, Ty. Rachel said nothing. She was staring at her lap. Her hands were clenched. My dad chimed in. I mean, it's not like you guys are doing anything fancy. Why complicate it? That's when I made the mistake of bringing up Amber. Not aggressively. Not accusingly. Just gently. A test. I just find it kind of confusing, I said, that Amber's shower had a band and catering and custom signs, but we can't even have chairs without it being a problem. The room went quiet. My mom froze mid-sip of wine. Well, she said slowly, Amber's wedding is different. How? She's the bride. It's more traditional. Rachel's also a bride. My mom rolled her eyes. It's not a competition, Tyler. Honestly, I hate how everything has to be tit for tat with you. Rachel looked up then. Her eyes were glistening. We're not trying to compete. We just want to be treated fairly. My dad scoffed. Amber didn't ask for a backyard wedding. I think that's when I realized it wasn't just about money. It was about value. In their eyes, Amber deserved more. Amber was the real bride. Amber was the one worth celebrating. The dinner ended soon after that. Rachel didn't say goodbye. I barely managed a thanks for dinner before we left. We drove home in silence, and for the first time since we got engaged, I saw something crack in Rachel that scared me. This doesn't feel like a wedding, she said quietly. It feels like charity. That night, I made a decision. We weren't getting married in that backyard. We weren't going to stand under some rusted garden arch while my parents sat smugly in lawn chairs and acted like they were doing us a favor. We weren't going to smile while they handed out Dollar Tree plates and reminded everyone how humble we were being. No, we were going to get married, but it wouldn't be on their terms. Still, I didn't tell them, because I wanted them to feel in control. I wanted them to believe they were still calling the shots. I wanted them to keep talking, keep bragging, keep revealing just how deep their favoritism ran. And then, a week before our scheduled backyard ceremony, the final betrayal landed in my inbox. It was an email from Amber. Subject line, quick favor. I clicked it, expecting another brag or maybe some last-minute RSVP question. Instead, I saw this. Hey, big bro. So we need a little help. Devin's cousin just dropped out of the groomsman lineup, and I was wondering if maybe Rachel could sit this one out and let Devin's buddy, the hot one from New York LOL, walk with your friend Brian instead? He already has a suit, and it'll look better in photos. Promise it won't be weird. Let me know, kiss mark. Let her sit out. Of her own wedding. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just the audacity. It was the casual cruelty. The way she treated Rachel like an extra. A placeholder. An obstacle to the aesthetic of her photos. As if our wedding wasn't real. As if we were just a speed bump on her road to wife life, Instagram fame. I didn't respond. I didn't call. I didn't forward the email to Rachel. I just stared at it. For hours. And that's when the plan really clicked into place. I wasn't just going to change the venue. I wasn't just going to take our wedding back. I was going to take everything they'd tried to deny us, joy, dignity, celebration, and hand it right back to them in a package so undeniable, so unignorable, that they couldn't pretend anymore. But first, I had to let the backyard wedding burn just a little longer. Because the best revenge? It needed an audience. And the next chapter started with a phone call from my mom that I'll never forget, because what she said that day was the final nail in the coffin. I don't remember falling asleep that night. I remember sitting in bed, staring at the ceiling, Rachel curled up beside me, silent and still. My phone lay face down on the nightstand, Amber's email still glowing in my mind like a branding iron. Let her sit this one out. Like Rachel was an afterthought. Like our wedding was a dress rehearsal for hers. That phrase stuck to my ribs like rot. The next morning, I called in sick. I wasn't sick, not physically, but I felt hollow, disoriented, like I'd been hit by a wave that hadn't finished receding yet. Rachel left for work with a soft kiss and a worried glance, but she didn't press. She could tell I needed space. I spent most of that day walking. No destination, no plan, just moving. Through neighborhoods I hadn't visited in years, past empty baseball fields and forgotten parks. The silence of it all was comforting in a strange way. I needed to think. Or maybe I needed to stop thinking. Because every thought led back to the same place. How did I let this happen? How had I let them treat us this way? For years, I'd worn my peacekeeper badge like it was something noble. Like being agreeable meant being strong. But now, sitting on a bench beside a duck pond that smelled like wet leaves and regret, I finally asked myself a question I'd been avoiding for decades. What had being the peacekeeper really gotten me? Not their respect. Not their support. Not even a place at the table when it counted. I thought back to every birthday I'd quietly let slide because Amber needed more attention that year. Every family dinner where I'd swallowed my opinions because it wasn't the right time. Every job offer I didn't celebrate too loudly. Every accomplishment I downplayed so she wouldn't feel overshadowed. And now, at the edge of the most important day of my adult life, I was being asked, again, to shrink, to minimize, to make space. For her. That night, I finally told Rachel the truth. We were sitting on the floor of our living room, splitting a pint of Rocky Road, the TV playing some show neither of us was watching. I pulled out my laptop and opened the email. Her face fell as she read it. She wants me to sit out of our wedding? I nodded. Rachel looked at me, eyes wide, voice barely above a whisper. Tyler, this is insane. I didn't try to defend it. For once, I didn't make excuses for them. Instead, I pulled up a spreadsheet I'd been working on, quietly, behind the scenes, in the cracks of my days when I wasn't busy pretending to be okay. It had tabs for venues, for food trucks, for photographers who did affordable packages, for DJs who worked freelance gigs, and at the top of it all, a modest but workable budget. Rachel blinked at the screen. You've been planning this? Yeah, I said, my voice hoarse. Because I don't want them anywhere near our real wedding. And just like that, something shifted. She set down the ice cream and wrapped her arms around me. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt seen. Not just tolerated. Not just included out of obligation. Seen. From that night forward, the fall became the rise. We worked in secret. Every evening after work, every spare weekend, we chipped away at the details. We found a small vineyard an hour outside the city that had one open slot left, a last-minute cancellation. The owners were an older couple, semi-retired, and when they heard our story, the sanitized version, anyway, they offered us a ridiculous discount. Rachel's cousin did photography as a side hustle and offered to shoot the whole thing for half his usual rate. Our old college friend, Naomi, volunteered to officiate, and my co-workers pulled together and gifted us a handmade arch that one of them built in his garage, just because, as he put it, "You've been carrying everyone else on your back for years. Let us carry something for you." It was slow. It was quiet. It was built in the shadows of betrayal. But it was ours. I'd never felt so alive. There were setbacks, of course. Scheduling conflicts. Budget cuts. That one week where the vineyard's generator failed and we thought we'd lost the slot. But through it all, we kept going. Every moment was fueled not just by love, though there was plenty of that, but by something sharper. A determination. A refusal to let the narrative end the way they wanted it to. Rachel printed out a checklist on bright pink cardstock and taped it to our fridge. Every box we ticked felt like a tiny rebellion. Buy rings. Write vows. Create guest list. No family except real family. Send invites. Rent sound system. We invited people who mattered. Friends who had seen us grow together. Mentors who had guided us. Colleagues who'd cheered us on. No plus ones we didn't know. No obligations. Just love. Meanwhile, I let the fantasy of the backyard wedding continue to unfold. My parents kept texting about potluck sign-ups. My mom sent me a blurry Pinterest photo of a cake someone made out of stacked donuts. My dad complained about the sprinkler system acting up and how it might mess with the ceremony space. I told them I'd look into it, that everything was still on track. I smiled through every lie, not because I was cruel, but because I knew they didn't deserve to ruin this version, the real one. The closer we got to the date, the more intense the pressure became. My mom wanted to coordinate a family unity candle moment. Amber insisted on giving a speech, just a little one, nothing major, I promise. She even asked if I could include Devin's nephew in the ceremony, just to make it feel like one big family thing. I nodded, took notes, promised to circle back. Rachel and I bought thrift store decorations, painted signs by hand. Our kitchen turned into a chaotic war zone of craft paper, string lights, and half-glued centerpieces. We were exhausted, and we were glowing. Then, a week before the real wedding, 3 days before the fake one, my mom called. I was walking out of the grocery store when my phone buzzed. I answered without thinking. "Tyler," she said, in that voice. That tone. "We have a problem." I stopped beside my car. "What kind of problem?" I was talking to Amber, and she mentioned something odd. She said she saw a Facebook post from one of Rachel's co-workers about a wedding at a vineyard next week, and it had your name tagged in it. My stomach dipped. Just slightly. I told everyone to keep it quiet. But people get excited. Posts happen. I kept my voice calm. "That's weird. Probably just a mix-up." "Is it?" she asked, sharp now. Because Amber said the vineyard was the one she toured last year. The one she wanted before she settled for the winery downtown. "Are you two planning something you haven't told us about?" I paused, just long enough to make her squirm. "Of course not," I said finally. "Why would we do that?" There was a silence, the kind that hums with suspicion. "Okay," she said, "just making sure. It would be extremely hurtful if something like that were happening behind our backs." "Wouldn't want to hurt anyone," I replied, then hung up before she could press further. That night, Rachel and I finished writing our vows. We sat on our balcony, string lights glowing above us, the city murmuring below. She read hers first, tears in her eyes, her voice cracking on the part about building something no one else could take away. When it was my turn, I didn't cry, but I felt something deeper. A stillness, a kind of peace I hadn't known in years. This was what it felt like to choose your own story. 2 days later, the night before the fake wedding, my dad texted me a photo of the backyard. The arch was lopsided. The chairs didn't match. There was a folding table with a plastic tablecloth flapping in the wind. And underneath it, a single tier cake in a plastic box from the grocery store bakery. "Almost ready for your big day," he wrote. I stared at the image for a long time. Not with anger, not even with sadness, but with relief. Because I finally understood, I didn't need their version of love anymore. I had found something better, and it was waiting for me, just one day away. What they didn't know was that I'd already packed my suit. That Rachel's dress was hanging at the vineyard. That a camera crew, another friend, doing it for free, was already on site, checking angles and lighting. The wedding they thought they were hosting? It was never going to happen. But the one we'd built in its place? That one was already unfolding, quietly, powerfully, without them. And soon, they'd find out exactly how far I'd gone to take it all back. Because after the vows were said, and the first dance finished, and the sun had dipped below the vineyard hills, I had one final surprise waiting. One they would never forget. By the time the morning of the fake wedding arrived, I was awake before sunrise. Not from nerves, not from excitement, but from the sheer electric tension of knowing that every moment from here on out was part of the setup. That today wasn't a wedding day, it was Act 1. The sun had barely peeked over the horizon when I got a text from my mom. Happy wedding day. Can't believe it's finally here. We're setting everything up. Don't be late. She attached a photo of Amber in workout clothes, standing next to the arch with a stapler in one hand and an iced coffee in the other, clearly pretending she was helping. The folding chairs were out. The Dollar Tree banners were fluttering in the breeze. The grass looked half-mowed. It was exactly the kind of wedding they always thought I deserved, an afterthought. But what they didn't know was that 3 hours north, in a secluded vineyard nestled between two gentle hills, the real wedding was already underway. Rachel and I had driven up the night before under the pretense of spending the night apart. I stayed with our friend Naomi and her wife, while Rachel checked into the vineyard's small guest house. We wanted to keep everything airtight, no digital trails, no suspicious activity, no visible countdown. The whole thing had to unfold like a magician's flourish. Now you see it, now you don't. I turned off my phone after I read the text. From that moment on, I was unreachable. At the vineyard, everything was coming together like magic. Not the kind you find in storybooks, but the kind built from sweat and trust and people who show up when it counts. Rachel's cousin Michael was adjusting his camera lens, checking the light angles. Naomi was going over her script under the arbor, which our friend Daniel had stained and carved himself. The chairs, real, sturdy, white wood, were set in neat rows with ribbon sashes Rachel and I had tied by hand. There were wildflowers in mason jars, hand-lettered signs, and the gentle smell of fresh-baked bread from the food truck we'd hired to serve dinner. It wasn't lavish, but it was ours, and every single person there wanted to be there. There was no guilt, no keeping things humble, no fake modesty masking condescension, just joy, pure shared joy. As I stood in the dressing room putting on my suit, not a rented tux, not something off the clearance rack, but a tailored navy suit I'd saved for over a year to buy, Naomi poked her head in. You ready to nuke some bridges? She asked, grinning. I smiled. No, I'm ready to walk away from the ashes. We didn't live stream the ceremony. That wasn't the point. But we did record it. High-quality footage from multiple angles, including aerial shots thanks to Michael's drone. He wanted to do it as a gift to us, and we knew exactly what that footage would become. The wedding started at noon. At exactly 12:01, while Rachel walked down the aisle to a soft string rendition of Can't Help Falling in Love, my mom was pacing her backyard, texting furiously. At 12:15, while we exchanged vows under a sunlit canopy, Amber was storming around her patio, demanding answers from chairs that weren't filled. By 12:30, when Naomi pronounced us husband and wife and Rachel kissed me with tears in her eyes, I imagined my dad scratching his head and saying something like, well, maybe they got lost. It was almost poetic. They had prepared everything but the one thing that mattered, us. And we were gone. After the ceremony, while the guests mingled and the food truck fired up its griddle, I finally turned my phone back on. It was like opening a dam. 52 missed messages. For voicemails. 9 from my mom. 3 from my dad. 1 from Amber that read simply, "Are you freaking kidding me?" I didn't respond. Instead, I asked Michael for a favor. Can you pull together a short teaser cut? I asked. Like 1 minute. Quick, emotional, but clean. I wanted to feel like a movie trailer. He grinned. Already working on it. That's what I loved about our group. We didn't need lengthy explanations. They understood the assignment. By the time the reception hit full swing, he had it. The teaser was perfect. Opening with a drone shot of the vineyard under golden sunlight, panning to Rachel walking through the vines in her dress, cutting to our vows. I choose you, every time. Then the kiss. A wide shot of everyone clapping. Laughter. Music. Dancing under lights. All set to a soft instrumental score that built just enough to give it weight. It was elegant. Intimate. Stunning. I watched it once. Then I uploaded it. Not to Instagram. Not to Facebook. I uploaded it privately to YouTube. A video titled, "To Those Who Said We Couldn't Afford Joy." No tags. No description. No fanfare. Then I copied the link. And I sent it. To my mom. To my dad. To Amber. To our extended family group chat. To every single person who had RSVP'd yes to the backyard wedding. No caption. Just the link. And then I turned my phone off again. Because the reactions could wait. I wasn't about to let them interrupt our night. We danced. We toasted. We slow walked through the vineyard under lanterns. Rachel's dad gave a speech that had people laughing and crying in equal measure. Naomi read a quote from a book we both loved. People signed our guest book with real messages, not just names, but love letters, inside jokes, drawings. At one point, while the DJ played our song and Rachel pulled me close, I whispered in her ear, "Can you believe we did this?" She looked up at me, eyes shining. I can now. It wasn't until the next morning that I faced the fallout. I turned my phone on during breakfast. Messages were still rolling in. Some confused, some furious, some stunned into silence. But none of them, not a single one, dared to say what I thought they would. No one accused me of being cruel. Because the video was undeniable. You could see the difference. You could feel it. And that was the point. But that's not even the climax. Because the teaser was just part one. The real blow was still coming. Michael was already editing the full video, a 20-minute masterpiece capturing every moment in beautiful, cinematic clarity. And it would include something very special at the end. A speech. My speech. The one I gave at the reception, glass in hand, standing beside Rachel, with all our friends and chosen family gathered around. The one where I thanked everyone who helped us build this from scratch. The one where I told the truth, not with bitterness, not with rage, but with honesty. The one where I said, sometimes, the people who say they love you the most are the same ones who clip your wings in the name of humility. But love that demands silence, that demands smallness, that isn't love. It's control. And we're done letting anyone control how we celebrate joy. That speech? That would go viral. But they didn't know that yet. Not when they saw the teaser. Not when they tried to call and left voicemails that started nice and turned sour. Not when Amber posted a story with a black background and white text that said, "Some people are just ungrateful." Period. I didn't respond to that either. Because I wasn't done. The final act was still coming. And when it hit, they'd feel everything they made us feel. Twice as hard. I didn't plan to go viral. I planned to get married. I planned to make a point. But it turns out, when you do both, with grace, clarity, and receipts, people notice. The full wedding video dropped 3 days later. Michael finished editing in a frenzy, sending me the final cut with the subject line, "Ready to set the internet on fire?" It opened on a wide shot of the vineyard at sunset. Guests arriving in soft focus. Rachel adjusting her veil in the mirror, her fingers trembling just a little. Me fixing my tie, Naomi clapping me on the shoulder. Slow build. Steady rhythm. Then the ceremony, trimmed just enough to keep it flowing. But every word, every glance, every tear was left intact. Our vows, raw and real. Rachel's voice cracking when she said, "You are my home, no matter the house." My own voice shaking on. I spent years shrinking so others could shine. You taught me that love doesn't ask you to be smaller. The reception came next. Laughter, dancing, the clink of glasses and the shimmer of lights over wine-dark hills. Rachel twirling barefoot in the grass. Her dad hugging me, whispering, "Thank you for loving her the way she deserves." Naomi making a toast that included 3 inside jokes and a quote from the Princess Bride. And then, finally, the speech. I was standing under the arbor, the stars bright above us, holding my glass like a lifeline. "I want to thank all of you for being here," I began. Not just physically, but truly present. Every person here chose us, not out of obligation, not out of guilt, not because they were expected to, but because they wanted to. That matters. More than I can say. A few people nodded, some with tears already starting. "There's something that happens when you're the easy child," I continued. "You get good at making things easier for everyone else. You learn to smile through disappointment, to shrink your joy to make room for someone else's ego. You become the background character in your own story." Pause. But then, something changes. Maybe it's love. Maybe it's finally being believed. Maybe it's just enough. And one day, You decide that you're done making yourself small. I let that hang in the air. I won't name names, I said, voice calm. But this wasn't the wedding I was supposed to have. I was supposed to stand in a backyard, next to a plastic table covered in potato salad, surrounded by people who thought I should be grateful for the bare minimum. I was supposed to stay quiet, be humble, be cheap, be invisible. A murmur rippled through the crowd. But instead, I married the love of my life in the place we chose, with the people who lifted us up instead of weighing us down. And we're going to keep doing that. Forever. I raised my glass to building your own table and inviting people who know how to sit at it. Applause. Some standing. Rachel crying. I kissed her forehead. And just like that, the video faded to black. Uploaded title: The Wedding They Tried to Cancel. Description: a story about love, family, and choosing your own ending. Tags: wedding, emotional speech, family drama, standing up for yourself, backyard wedding lie, viral wedding video, toxic family, golden child. Within 24 hours, it had 5,000 views. By the end of the week, over 1 million. And with each passing hour, the comment section turned into a digital bonfire. I don't know you, but I'm crying. This is how you take your power back. Your parents should be ashamed. You did everything with class. Can't believe they tried to gaslight you out of your own wedding. Glad you made it yours. This hit me in the gut. Signed, the oldest child who always had to smile through it. The speech? I stood up and clapped at my desk. Bravo. Someone put this in a movie, please. It spread like wildfire. It was featured in wedding blogs, reaction TikToks, and even a BuzzFeed roundup called 10 Weddings That Said Nope to Toxic Families. I ignored the media buzz. I didn't care about fame. I just watched quietly, as the people who had always made me feel small realized the world was watching, and it wasn't on their side. The fallout began with a group chat explosion. My mom messaged first. You made us look like monsters. You humiliated this family. How could you do this to us? I didn't reply. My dad called me 3 times in 1 hour. I let them all go to voicemail. His tone started off calm, then bitter, then something close to desperate. Tyler, this is getting out of hand. You need to take the video down. Your mother hasn't slept. Amber's furious. People are asking questions. Do you really want to burn every bridge over this? Yes. Yes, I did. Amber DM'd me next. She didn't even pretend to be subtle. You manipulative little snake. You're jealous. You've always been jealous. Just because you couldn't afford a real wedding doesn't mean you get to trash mine. I stared at the message. I thought about responding. Thought about sending her the receipts, literal spreadsheets of the money our parents poured into her events while telling us they were broke. But I didn't, because her fury was the proof. And besides, my revenge wasn't just a viral video. The real blow came after. Rachel and I sent thank you notes to every single person who came to our real wedding. Personalized. Thoughtful. Inside each one, we included a photo, a moment frozen in time from that day. Us under the arbor. Her twirling barefoot. Our first dance. Naomi wiping her eyes. A memory. We didn't send notes to my parents, but we did send them something else. A DVD copy of the wedding video. Old school. In a white envelope. No return address. Just a post-it note inside that read, "Since you missed it." Amber got a copy too. We never heard back. A week later, my aunt, my dad's sister, who'd always been quietly kind to me, called. She said my parents were in damage control mode. That they'd told everyone they offered to help, but Rachel and I wanted to do it alone. That they were blindsided by our decision. They're trying to rewrite it, she said. But no one's buying it. Everyone saw the video. I thanked her. She paused. I'm proud of you, you know. That meant more than I can explain. Rachel and I settled into newlywed life with a peace I hadn't known was possible. There was no fallout in our home. No drama. No guilt. Just the warm, steady hum of something we'd built from scratch. We didn't cut everyone out. Not all at once. We just let things fade. No more Sunday dinners. No more group texts. When Amber's wedding finally came around, 2 months later, complete with the Italy honeymoon and luxury photographer, we RSVP'd no. We spent that weekend hiking in the mountains, unplugged, free. And when the photos started circulating, the custom flower wall, the glass dance floor, Amber's 3rd dress change, we didn't feel bitter. We felt nothing at all, because we had already won. And our wedding? It didn't just go viral. It became a symbol, a quiet, thunderous reminder that love doesn't require approval, and joy doesn't need permission. You don't owe your silence to people who use tradition to disguise mistreatment. You don't have to make yourself small to make others feel big. You can choose your ending. And sometimes, the best revenge is living a life so full of love, they can't rewrite the story without you. But you've already stopped reading theirs.